This is Privacy Notes. The enforcement regime under the data protection law are tougher and the litigation risk is much more pronounced. There are also significant restrictions on liability. This means a bigger stake for the regulator, more rights for the individual, as well as rights for pressure groups. On this episode, analysts from TaxTech will focus on the concepts, the hows and the whens of liabilities, penalties and remedies. They will explain the lower and upper levels of NDPR penalties and how you appreciate the cost of non-compliance with the NDPR.
Hello everyone, welcome back to Privacy Notes, the podcast brought to you by TaxA Technologies Limited, TaxTech in collaboration with the NDPR Academy. Remember that TaxTech is your plug for all things data protection compliance, cybersecurity and software development services. The NDPR Academy is your plug for all things data protection compliance trainings and certifications. I am joined today with my colleagues Uwem and Benga. How are you guys doing today?
Hello, Reina. How you doing?
I'm very well, thank you.
Okay.
Hi, Reina. Thank you for having me today.
Always a pleasure to have you in the studio.
I think this is the first time I'm here with GP.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Funny enough, I'm actually just in the room for the first time in a long time.
Yeah. Lockdown.
Thanks to COVID.
We are not alone here too. I mean, some people don't want to introduce themselves, but I'll call names, all right? We have some, should I call them externalities, external factors in the house, all right? We have Michael here though. In case you didn't know, we've always done this recording from the Africa Business Radio Studios, and Michael has actually been our point man. We have John also in-house too. Hello guys.
Hello.
All right, now at least he got to talk this time around.
Yeah.
Back to you, Rita.
All right, we'll be chipping in just in bits when we continue this session. Today's actually a pretty special day. We're recording the last episode for season 1 of Privacy Notes, the podcast. Can you remember when we started, Benga? How it's been so quick.
I feel nostalgic right now. I want to cry, but I can't right now.
It really does feel like yesterday. This has been an interesting one. We really appreciate all our listeners for taking our time and trusting us to educate you and share our views on all things data protection compliance in Nigeria. It's been a pleasure. I hope you've enjoyed. I hope you've learned, and I hope you're going to spread the word about data protection compliance. We'll take a short break, and when we return, we'll be discussing about liabilities, penalties and remedies under the NDPR. That's the Nigeria Data Protection Regulation. We're talking about the actions that data controllers or administrators do that would be seen as offenses or pave a way for a data breach under the NDPR. And when we return, we'll talk about this in details. And we are back. This is still Privacy Notes, the podcast brought to you by TaxTech and the NDPR Academy. So we have our data protection expert here, Uwem, and we'll just be asking him a few questions to just throw some light on what we spoke about earlier. So Uwem, as a data subject, when there's a breach of your personal data, what is the first thing that should be done?
Okay, so the first thing, as a data subject, right, when you notice that there's a breach on your privacy, as per, for instance, someone has hacked into your account or there's been some activity on your account which was not carried out by you.
Yeah, it wasn't initiated by you.
The first thing you should do is to contact the data controller.
Okay.
Right. Send them an email or call them actually. So on the privacy policy of the data controller, usually provision for the contact details of the data protection officer. Mm-hmm. So any issue relating to data protection would be handled by him, right? That's on behalf of the organization. Okay. So his contact details are usually in the privacy policy of the company, which is on their website typically. Okay. So when you contact the data protection officer, he will escalate it to management, I guess, and they'll try to investigate as to the cause of the breach. they will first of all want to confirm if the breach was from their end or from your end.
Okay.
If the breach is from your end, you will first of all have to change your password. If it's a virus thing, you install antivirus software and things like that, or maybe even change your device.
Okay, sorry, let me just come in there. Okay, you said if you, as a data subject, you experience a breach, you need to contact your data controller. I feel this is maybe in an ideal world, right? You know, in the case where you even have access to this. Let's even look at it from the layman's perspective. Most people don't even know who their data controller is. They just know, okay, I had a breach. Okay, someone hacked my phone. I just saw, I got this funny email. I lost access to my email. I lost access to this and all that. So let's look at it from that angle, because I expect most people, majority of people fall in this category. So, me.
Okay, so when I said you contact your data controller, that was based on the assumption that you actually like exchange personal data with this data controller. So like with Facebook, for instance, if you've been making social media posts, posting pictures, and then you discover that your account has been hacked and someone is making posts on your account without your knowledge or without your consent, you can actually reach out to Facebook, which is a data controller, for them to like carry on investigations and confirm if this breach is from their end or if it's from your end. Maybe someone had hacked your account because your password is easy. Right. And remember we spoke about passwords
in the previous episodes.
So if your password is easy, someone has probably hacked your account and then is making these posts or sending people messages from your account without your consent. So the data controller, that's Facebook in this event, will actually investigate and get back to you and say maybe you should change your password or stuff like that. Those kind of measures, they would reach out to you and inform you on measures you should take to address this breach. However, if it will be a different case if the breach is actually from Facebook's end, if the breach was as a result of their negligence or a glitch or a vulnerability in their system, that's another story. So there are steps that they should take, data controllers, to address this breach.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. I know that GB also wanted to talk about our platform, and like we always say, RDB, which is Report Data Breach, which we can also escalate these issues to the higher authority. The higher authority here being NITDA, that's the National Information Technology Development Agency. Will you just kind of give us a brief about that?
Yeah, that's correct. So RDB was a platform that was talked about in previous episodes before, that was initiated by TaxTech Technologies Limited. And the background story to that was we discovered that a lot of people, when they experience these breaches, they don't really know what to do. They just find themselves, trying to complain. We've had cases of some will even tell you go and report to the police. Some will say go and report to the EFCC. I mean, that's the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission in Nigeria now. And you begin to wonder, when you try to make these reports, when you get to some of these authorities will ask you, okay, what is the extent of the breach? And when you explain, they tell you that they feel it's minor, because when you come to report, okay, something happened and you lost this so level of information, and they feel it's minor. They only look at very tough or very huge cases that they consider. So we realized that we need to have something in place where the layman, the ordinary data subject, could easily report this, so we can escalate this to the appropriate authorities. So that's what RDB is, the Report Data Breach Platform. It allows you to go over there, whatever issues you've had, whatever you itemize them based on certain statistics and questions that are asked of you. And once you make all these reports now, then other end, we're able to look at this objectively and of course escalate and ensure you get the needed justice. I mean, it might not be instant, but at least there is something being done. So at least all this information, you're able to collate this, and from this too, you can always know how to guard against the reoccurrence of this incidents and all that. So the Report Data Breach Platform is available on rdb.ng, or better still, rdb.ndpr.ng. You can go back there and check it out today.
All right, thank you so much for that.
Okay, thank you, GB. Just to add to the report data breach, so I think the escalation will typically come in the event that the data controller has refused to act on your request address the breach. So if you notice that the data controller is not paying particular attention to the breach of your privacy rights, or is not handling your personal data properly, so you can escalate it by actually visiting the rdb.ng to report your issue.
Okay. Thank you for that. So this is for you, in the event that a breach of a data subject's personal data occurs, what is the first step that a data controller or administrator should take? I know you've touched about this previously, but just... Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Rena. So the NDPR is actually very explicit in as regards the steps a data controller is supposed to take in the event of a data breach. So A data controller, first of all, has 72 hours to report a data breach. The NDPR actually says that you should report a data breach to NITA within 72 hours of your knowledge of the breach. So if you find out there's a breach of personal data today, you have 72 hours from the moment you found out that there was a breach to report to NITA. So information you should include in your reports would be a description of the circumstances of the breach. So if it's a loss or unauthorized access or disclosure of personal data, you would include it in your reports. You would include the dates and time where the breach occurred. You include a description of the personal data that's involved in the data breach. You would also include an assessment of the risk of harm to data subjects. So if there's a breach that occurred, you just look at it and assess it. Would this breach be of great harm or great risk to the data subjects? That will also be included as part of your report to NITA. You'd also include an estimate of the number of data subjects that are affected by the breach. Those are just some of the information you would be including in your report to NITA as a data controller.
All right.
Okay, we talk about this always in details. We just had a training that was last week Friday on September 18th where we spoke about all these details that were mentioned.
Incidentally, this was actually Module 7, NDPR Liabilities, Penalties and Remedies. If you missed that training, you might want to, register in advance for the next set of trainings that will be coming up, or you could reach out to us at info@ndpracademy.ng to have much more knowledge on this details.
It's actually advisable that you also participate in these trainings. I don't think I know of any other training in Nigeria on data protection. A lot of people are always asking me, like, what books can I read? What things can I, what articles, what platforms can I even visit to advance my knowledge on data protection? But I think the NDPR Academy is actually a very great place to start.
That's correct.
And
yes.
advance.
It's, the data protection basically in Nigeria is still a relatively new idea. People are not very readily aware of it yet. It's still coming up, if I should say. So, yes, through the NDPR Academy, we try to do our best to make sure we expand this knowledge to the best of our abilities on that. And incidentally, we also have another training coming up. That's the practitioner training. Now, this is actually an advanced level of the training. What we had on Friday, 18th of September, was the foundation training, the foundation course, which had 7 modules. And it was just a day's event. But the one for the practitioner course is coming up on Friday, 25th and Saturday, 26th of September. Now, this is actually a 14-hour training split into 2 days. So you know that at the end of this training, you could easily beat your chest and say, yes, you could hold your own whenever it comes to conversations of data protection, at least as far as the NDPR is concerned. So we advise you, we encourage you to register in advance for these trainings. Visit www.ndpracademy.ng to register in advance for these trainings.
Okay, that's fantastic. We'll take a short break. And we are right back. This is still Privacy Notes, the podcast brought to you by TaxTech and the NDPR Academy. So we're still discussing about liabilities, remedies, and penalties under the NDPR. So what things can data controllers or administrators do or not do that will make them liable under the NDPR?
Okay, thank you, Rena. So I feel as a data controller, if you appoint a DPCO, that's a data protection compliance organization, you've actually solved about 95% of your problems. Because the work of the DPCO is actually to assess, audit, train, and advise you on compliance measures with the NDPR. So if you have a DPCO, first of all, then I think 95% of your compliance issues have been settled, because part of their job is to actually audit and advise you on ways that you can comply with the NDPR. TaxTech Technologies Limited obviously is a well-versed, not just a DPCO, but a well-versed in compliance data protection organization. If you have any issues or have any further questions on data protection generally, please reach out to us at
contact@taxtech.com.ng.
All right. Okay, so another point for liability for a data controller is actually as regards filing your report. Like I said, if you appoint a DPCO, you solve 95% of your problems, because A DPCO is actually also responsible for filing your annual data protection audit reports. They will carry out audits on your company's processes, policies, and procedures as regards handling personal data, and then they will file the reports with NIDA. It's only a DPCO that can actually file a report with NIDA. So to comply with the NDPR in that aspect, you would actually also need to appoint a DPCO. Also, it's also advisable that you appoint a data protection officer in-house. So in the event that you are not able to reach out to a DPCO, or a DPCO is an external body, you have to send emails or call, and it may take time to respond. If you have a trained data protection officer in-house, it's also a great advantage to you.
To add to that, the NDPR Public Institution Guidelines, the NPIG, recently released by NIDA, I think that was on May 18th, 2020, specifically emphasized the need for public institutions to have a data protection officer appointed by August 16th, and they must have been trained, within 90 days of being appointed. So that same regulation, of course, applies to everyone expectedly, that, as many data controllers should ensure they have DPOs, that is a data protection officer. I kind of like this DPO thing.
I actually like the name.
It's quite interesting to keep using that term all the time, just so people feel, okay, fine. It's all security anyway. What are DPO?
District Police Officer.
Exactly. Something like that, So they need to appoint one and of course make sure they are trained within 90 days. So if you look at the 90-day window, I think we're still within that window right now for public institutions who have appointed. If you appointed one by August 16th, your 90-day window is expected to expire sometime in November. You're still within the window at least to make sure your DPOs have been trained. And of course, again, the NDPR Academy is a very fertile ground to ensure you have that training.
Yeah. So in the event that a data controller, has appointed a data protection compliance organization, they've done everything within the control, there's the possibility that there will still be a breach, because these things are sometimes inevitable.
Yeah.
Very correct.
So what then should the data controller then do?
Okay, so basically, first of all, when you appoint a DPCO, part of the audit process is an assessment of your policies and your processes, right, to ensure that they are in compliance with the NDPR. So where there is now a breach, first of all, okay, that's where you have the data protection impact assessment test, where you actually look at your projects that actually involve the processing of personal data. You would carry out this test on those projects to discover any areas of vulnerabilities or gaps where breaches can actually occur. And apart from the data protection impact assessment test, you can also carry out a VAT test. That's a vulnerability assessment test, to go through your entire system to actually pick out any loopholes where a breach can occur.
Okay, so are there penalties? Obviously there are supposed to be penalties, or I should ask rather, what are the penalties that are due to a data controller or administrator?
Okay, so the NDPR actually makes provisions for two classes of offenses as regards a breach of personal data rights. So the first class is for data controllers that control the personal data of more than 10,000 data subjects. The NDPR says that if you control the personal data of more than 10,000 data subjects and there's a breach of personal data rights in your organization, you will be liable to pay 2% of your previous year's annual gross revenue, or 10 million, whichever is greater. Whichever is greater. I think focus should actually be paid.
It's a very stiff penalty. It's not even a joke.
Basically, one way or the other,
you still pay.
You can't pay less than 10 million.
No, not at all. So
whichever is greater. So if 2% of your global revenues is maybe 4 million, then you pay 10 million.
Yeah. So but imagine
higher than 10 million, you still pay 10 million.
I'm just imagining, I imagine you had a very good year last year, you made a lot of profit, and then you just get hit with this 2%. Wow,
that's terrible.
So imagine you made 1 trillion.
Better safe than sorry,
Yeah. Please appoint the DPCO.
Very, very important. So, and TaxTech is a DPCO.
So the next category is for data controllers that actually process personal data of less than 10,000 data subjects. In that event, where there's a data breach in your organization, you'll be liable to pay 1% of your previous year's annual gross revenue, or 2 million naira, whichever is greater.
Okay, that's interesting.
I think that should have just said pay 2 million naira. Or pay 10 million naira.
Really? That's whichever is greater.
Whichever is greater.
So, we've already talked about this. I want to just say, what remedies can be taken but I think you've already touched on this earlier on. Do you just want to reiterate?
Yeah, I would actually speak to that a bit. So I'll start with the data subject actually. So if there's a breach to your personal data, like we said before, you should reach out to the data controller, right, to inform them of such breach or such breaches in any case. And then depending on the feedback you get from them, if they are reluctant or they are slow in addressing your issue, then RDB is here for you.
RDB to the rescue.
Okay, that's also a medium of reaching out to NDPR, right, for reporting data breach. Then a number of data subjects actually even go to the extent of filing a fundamental human rights suit in court. Because your privacy is guaranteed by the Nigerian Constitution. That's and right. Where there is a breach of your privacy, it's actually a ground for you to file an action in court. So that's also another option, but depends on how much you value your privacy and how extreme the breach is. So if it's a very serious case, anyways, I feel personally that part of the fines that collects from the data controller for a breach should actually go to the affected data subject. But baby, that's just me thinking.
And that's quite instructive.
Yeah.
I never actually saw it in that direction.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah.
It's true. Yeah. Because at least there should be some form of compensation to that data subject. But then, most of the time, when these guys file, like you mentioned, an action suit in court or something, they sue for damages too. So they maybe part of the damages they give to them. But I don't know if NDPR has any arrangements in place right now that allows them also, from whatever the 10 million or 2 million or whatever is greater that they collect, maybe they will have something they give back to the affected data subjects. What is our conversations that are definitely still ongoing now?
Yeah. So just to add to that, NDPR's penalty system, it actually considers the extent of how compliant your organization is with the NDPR. So if you have put in measures in place to ensure that breaches don't happen, but they still do, NDPR actually considers the measures you've put in place. So for instance, if you've appointed a DPCO, appointed a DPO, your security measures are in place, your policies are in compliance with the NDPR. If there is a breach, your penalties will not be as high as an organization that does not have a DPCO or that is not in compliance with the NDPR. So that's why we are still saying, that a breach is, I don't know if I should say a breach is inevitable, because
almost
inevitable. So you cannot say our systems are totally secure, a breach cannot happen. But we are just saying that in the event of a breach,
done the best to their ability, try to avoid such.
Yeah, it is advisable that you had complied with the NDPR to a great extent, because that will affect your fine if you are eventually fined. So that's about that on remedies on the part of the data subject. So now I'll just head over to the data controller. So the first thing you have to do as a data controller is to appoint a DPCO. That's in just a remedy. If there's a breach to your systems, after reporting to NDPR or something, you should appoint a DPCO, because I feel if you even had the DPCO in the first place, some of these breaches may have actually been prevented. Yeah. So after appointing a DPCO will assess your systems. I said initially that a DPCO audits, assesses and trains your personnel in-house to be compliant with the NDPR. It also advises the organization generally on compliance with the NDPR. So the DPCO would advise you on compliance. The next measure you should also take is to carry out testing on your systems, as per include security measures. You can revise your information security policies, for instance, to address security incidents like breach incidents. So your information security policy or your systems generally should include software that addresses antivirus, malware, phishing, for instance. So your policies should actually address or have measures in place or things employees are expected to do that would prevent a breach from happening. So like your information security policy, for instance, should provide that employees should use a password, may even provide a timeline for changing your password and the number of characters your password must have, because that also affects the security of your database. Another remedy or something a data controller should put in place is also to have a privacy policy on the website. A privacy policy has actually been explicitly discussed by the NDPR, and the NDPR even lists out the contents of your privacy policy, or what a typical privacy policy is supposed to have. So by following those rules and then indicating your privacy policy on the website, you are actually in compliance with the NDPR and you are reducing your liability. The final point I want to make is also that you should ensure that you file your annual data protection audit reports on March 15th every year. This is also in line with the appointment of a DPCO, because it's only a DPCO that can file your audit reports. So you should ensure that your processes are audited by a DPCO, and then these reports are filed with NITA on or before the 15th of March every year. Thank you.
All right, that's been quite extensive.
Great.
Thank you so much, Uwem, for that. Benga, any final words?
Final words at this point would just be to remind you of the Africa Data Protection Conclave. This is coming up on October 15th and 16th. All right, our arrangement preparations are in top gear already. Just visit our website www.africadpconclave.com to find out more details. You see the list of our sponsors and our speakers and all that right there. You definitely want to be a part of this. Like I mentioned in the last time podcast, this is the biggest thing as far as data protection is concerned on the African continent. So it's beyond the NDPR this time, if you dare me to say. We have stakeholders across the African continent who are going to be speaking on data protection from their own point of view and across about 4 different distinct lines of intervention. Okay, so we are speaking along 4 distinct lines of intervention. We're looking at number 1, the AU Convention on Cybersecurity and Personal Data Protection, that is understanding the convention, its challenges and prospects. The second one, there is a comparative review of the regulation and administration of personal data protection and cybersecurity laws in jurisdictions in Africa. We're looking at how we can learn from the best and encourage the upcoming here. Then the third line of intervention there is talking about data sovereignty, intellectual property protection, and the African knowledge economy. They will be looking at debating the myths, the realities, possibilities, and solutions. And the fourth line there is the personal data protection and security justice administration in Africa, practical steps to getting judicial systems in Africa to advance the Africa knowledge economy. So we see that, there's a robust set of conversations that will be happening during this Africa Data Protection Conclave. We already have confirmed speakers. We have the Minister of Communication and Digital Economy already confirmed he's going to be the keynote speaker at this event. So definitely stakeholders and all that, you all definitely want to be available for this Data Protection Conclave, the first one of its kind in Africa. So go again on the website www.africadpconclave.com and get registered. And we'll see you at the conclave.
All right, thank you everyone. Thanks for listening, and make sure you sign up for the Africa DP Conclave. That's the Africa Data Protection Conclave. Remember that you should not let a data breach go unnoticed. Report at Report Data Breach. That is RDB, www.rdb.ng. Remember to also sign up for the Q3 2020 NDPR Academy Practitioner class coming up on Friday 25th and Saturday 26th September 2020. Remember to sign up at www.ndpracademy.ng or send us an email at info@ndpracademy.ng and we'll be happy to take it forward from there.
So that's a wrap for this first season of Privacy Notes, the podcast. We look forward to seeing you in next season. We'll be taking a kind of a hiatus. We don't know how long we'll be gone for, but I don't expect it to be too long. Feel free to subscribe, to jump in, listen to the previous episodes. We've had 13 episodes so far, from the very first one to the last one. Please feel free to listen in and let's have your feedback and your comments. You can reach out to us on any of our social media handles on TaxTech NG across Instagram, LinkedIn, and of course Twitter as well. Then on the NDPR Academy, you can reach us on our Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter as well. NDPR Academy _ We look forward to hearing from you. It's been a pleasure having a fantastic season so far. Definitely, I'm going to miss you guys. I'm going to miss Rain. I'm going to miss Wem. I'm going to miss Michael. I'm going to miss John. I don't know why they didn't say anything. Michael ran out for a bit and John is just looking and smiling at us. I don't know why he doesn't want to talk. All right. But we'll let him go. We'll let us slide. Next season, definitely, you're going to be having much more participation. And we're looking at, taking this a little different next season. Definitely, you can't wait to be a part of this. Thank you very much for your time so far. OM, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you.
As usual, it's always a pleasure having you, even though we actually never got to meet you in the studio.
First time and last time.
No, we're definitely going to have a more robust next season. And Urena, my partner in crime. Is that right to say right now?
All right. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. And till next season, have a great one.
Check out our website www.taxtech.com.ng for more on protecting your data from cyber criminals. You can also become a privacy professional through our NDPR Academy. You've been listening to Privacy Notes brought to you by TaxTech.